All right, all right, all right. Come on in, come on in. We are live. We are live. We are live. We are live. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Yeah. Let's see. Let's get it. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. We got a hot topic to discuss tonight. May not get done with. We have to be part two in this one. Okay. So you guys come on in, come on in, come on in. Let's see. Come on in, come on in, come on, come on, come on, come on in. We're gonna get started in a couple of minutes. We always like to give at least 2 or 3 minutes for everybody to come on. Hey, Jamisha, good to see you. Good to see you. So glad that you can make it on tonight. All right. All right. All right. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. All right. We got a couple of people on, so we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait about another couple of minutes. Get started about 8:05, just so we can have some people on, and make sure you guys share this to your page, because I'm telling you, tonight we talking about setting healthy boundaries, and I'm telling you, like, everybody can use the teaching that's going on tonight. Okay, so if you in a relationship, you looking to be in a relationship, you need to be on this tonight. I'm telling you, you need to be on this tonight, because we're going to be talking about setting healthy boundaries in our relationships. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Let's get that. So y'all get ready. Stay with me. Don't log out, because we're going to get started in about a minute and a half. Okay, we're gonna get started in about a minute and a half. So I'm telling you guys, want to stay on tonight. You want to stay on tonight, because it is going down tonight. It is going down tonight. It's going down tonight. All right. So let's see, where is that post? Oh, here we go. All right. When you guys come on, make sure you just say, hey, what's up? What's going on? Because it's going down tonight. All right. All right. It's going down tonight. So get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. All right, one more minute. One more minute. We're gonna get started, y'all. So make sure you guys share, because we want to get some people on here. So make sure you guys share to your timelines. Okay. Okay. One more minute, and we getting started. So give me 1 minute. 1 minute. We're just trying to give everybody enough time to get on here tonight, because it is going down. It is going down. It is going down. All right. All right. So all right, one more minute. We got like probably about 30, 40 seconds. All right, so you guys hang in there. All right, because again, we just want to give some people some time to be able to log in. Give some people some time to be able to log in. All right. All right, all right. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let me see. Did I make sure that I get everybody? Okay, I didn't share here. Hey, Uncle Sean, Uncle Sean, Uncle Sean. Good to see you, Uncle Sean. Miss you. We miss you. The family miss you. Yes, sir. You got to see the new edition. Yes, sir. You didn't see the new edition yet, so. Hopefully we can get our schedules connected, so when the next time we're in Florida, we can be able to see you. Ivan, I see you too, man. What's up? What's up, man of God? Yeah, we miss you too, Uncle Sean. We miss you too, for real. Yeah, we miss you too. All right, y'all. All right. So just want to give some people some time to get on. Make sure you guys share this to your page. All right. Remember, we're here every Tuesday night for Relationship Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central Time. So be ready. Be ready to log in with us, connect with us. Again, you guys, if you got some topics you would want me to discuss, man, hit me in the inbox. And I'll discuss those topics. This topic actually came out of last Tuesday because I just mentioned boundaries, and then people just started talking. So I was like, okay, we're gonna do this next week. All right. So this is the cool thing. There's a lot of information that we're going to be talking about when it comes down to boundaries tonight, and so this may end up being 2 sessions. Okay, this may end up being 2 sessions. So, but we'll see. We're gonna keep it to the hour. We're gonna, keep it moving. All right. But you guys lock in, get your pencils, get your pads and paper, whatever you want to write with, and because we're gonna make it do what it do. All right. So we're talking about healthy boundaries tonight. Okay, healthy boundaries. And so if we want to look at healthy boundaries, we got to understand what that looks like, because a lot of times people set boundaries, right? And so many times, like, they're not healthy. The boundaries not healthy, or the boundaries have not been really communicated. Gene Washington from Haiti, what's up, Gene? Good to see you on tonight, man. Good to see you on tonight. So glad that you can make it and for tonight's episode. Amen. All right. So this is the thing. In order to set healthy boundaries, we got to first know what they are. Okay. And what are boundaries used for? All right. So what are boundaries used for? So let's look at that. And again, I'm a move. So I'm probably going to not make too many notes in the comment section. So if anybody want to make some notes in the comment section, you guys can, but we got a lot of stuff we want to cover, because with boundaries, it's layers to this thing. And so I don't want to drag this thing out. We want to hit it all tonight, or possibly in 2 sessions. So again, you guys just be listening and, take notes, and, somebody can, reiterate what I'm saying in the comment section. Okay. If you're on the Regeneration Church page, on YouTube or Facebook, you guys can do that. Or if you're on the family page or my personal page, you could do it as well. So all of those different pages, because we're all linked tonight, all those pages are linked tonight. And so again, if you're just getting on, make sure you share, make sure you comment, make sure you send those emojis. Let me know, even ask some questions. Okay. Ask some questions. If you got a question, you can ask a question, put it in the comment section, and I'm going to see it, and I'm going to try to do the best that I can to be able to answer your question, okay? So back to boundaries. In order to set healthy boundaries, we have to understand what boundaries are for, okay? So boundaries are for our personal space, right? Our personal space, because we all like personal space. We all have that personal space where not too many people we want to be in our personal space, right? Or we feel a little uncomfortable, or we get a little uneasy, okay? We set boundaries for emotions and our thoughts, right? Because sometimes we can be emotional, our thoughts can run rapid. And so, we have to set some healthy boundaries, because sometimes if we're in an emotional state, we can say some things that we really don't mean. So we set boundaries for that. Okay. Or even with things that are coming in from the other person that could make us emotional, make our thoughts run rampant. So we set those boundaries on both sides. Okay. We set boundaries for things that we own. You see what I'm saying? Possessions that we have. Those are physical boundaries where we can set that as far as that. Some people they got certain things that, they don't want to share with nobody. They might have a favorite mug, or they may have a favorite, cup, or they may have a favorite, who knows, or, they may have a favorite snack. And it's just you can get upset if you eat that favorite snack, and you didn't ask for it. So, those are physical boundaries that we can set with, from communicating and also putting labels on stuff and say, hey, do not touch. All right. Then there's boundaries for time and energy. How much time you're going to spend on something, how much energy you're going to invest in something, right? So there's boundaries for that. Then there's boundaries for culture, for religion, and for ethics. Okay, so those I'm just giving you a synopsis of boundaries in general. Okay, and we're gonna hone this thing in on boundaries in relationships. Okay, but you can't talk about healthy boundaries if you don't know what they're used for in the first place. Okay, all right, and so setting boundaries, right, for yourself and honoring the boundaries of others isn't like textbook science. Okay, but we can learn ways to take charge of our lives, right? Whether you want to set clear rules, okay, or with your family, or assert yourself in spaces when it comes to strangers. We're going to be talking about that tonight, because sometimes people, because they're people pleasers, they let people literally misuse them and like walk all over their boundaries, right? And so I deal with that in counseling with my couples. Anytime when I have a people pleaser person in the group, we do some role playing, and we literally make them extremely uncomfortable so that they come out of that people pleasing deal and be assertive, so that they can actually begin to get their needs met. Because a lot of times the fact is, why the boundaries keep getting pushed is because the person is not setting healthy boundaries and actually, reinforcing them. Okay. Because of the people pleasing, because I don't want to argue, I don't want to fuss, I don't want any tension, I don't want to, have to deal with that. Well, I can't stand that because, it traumatizes me when anger. So what happens is that person literally never feels validated or feels like they are, important, because they have not set healthy boundaries and reinforced those boundaries. Okay. Amen. All right, so what are the benefits of boundaries? What are some of the benefits of boundaries? One, better self-esteem. Okay, better self-esteem. You feel better about yourself. How? Because you don't let nobody take you there. Okay, you don't let nobody abuse you. You don't let nobody use you. Okay, and so better self-esteem is a benefit. Okay, number two, conserving emotional energy. Man, that's probably the biggest one, right? Healthy boundaries in any type of relationship will help us conserve our energy from an emotional standpoint. Okay, it will help us conserve our energy from an emotional standpoint. All right, so y'all probably want to circle that one, and somebody please put that in the comment section, because that, when it comes down to healthy boundaries, like, it helps us to conserve our emotional energy, and it literally relieves you of being on the emotional roller coaster of life in your relationships, where you're up and you're down, you're up and you're down. And then you start twisting and going backwards. And the next thing you don't know your head from your tail, or up, what side's up, what side's down, because there's so much stress and turmoil in your relationship. Okay, so healthy boundaries help us to conserve our emotional energy. Okay, all right. So boundaries also help us to be able to be more independent. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Boundaries help us to be more independent, where it comes down to the fact that we're able to set rules and standards in place, and we literally, expect people to abide by those things. So there's an independence where there's not this whole, this what we would like to call this coping thing, where like this self, like, medicating thing, where some people like need each other, like they literally have unhealthy bonds because they have this codependency. You see what I'm saying? They have this codependency, and as a result, there are no healthy boundaries in codependent relationships, because their lines are so muddy. But when you have healthy boundaries, it creates an independency, because what it is that you have your way of thinking, you have your mindset, you have like what works for you, how it works. And this is the thing, we're going to talk more about how we prepare to set healthy boundaries, because that's a whole nother story. But right now we're just talking about the benefits of it. But it gives you more self-esteem. It allows you to be like who you are. It allows you not to lose your identity inside of another person. Okay. And so thank you, Ivan. Thank you for putting that down there. Better self-esteem, no use, no abusing. That's right. And so the thing is that healthy boundaries help you, okay, to be more independent in your thinking. And of course, as a couple, we're one, but you have to have your own individual identity in your marriage, in your relationship. So healthy boundaries help you to do that. Healthy boundaries help you to do that. Okay. So sometimes the word boundary can be misleading, correct? It can be misleading. It conveys the ideal of keeping yourself separate, right? So when we say boundaries, we're like, okay, let me separate myself from you, or separate myself from this situation, or from this thing, or this problem. Okay, so I want us to be able to, you guys got to really lock in with me tonight, because we're going to dispel the myths. We're going to dispel all these myths about boundaries, because see, a lot of times when we set boundaries, like we use it as a way of protecting ourselves, and literally, keeping us from, being defensive of different things like that. But what we don't realize is that if we're not careful, we can actually set up boundaries to cause separation, which literally makes it even worse, because now you're disconnected in your relationship. So when it comes down to healthy boundaries, that's why we're not talking about just boundaries tonight. We're talking about healthy boundaries, okay? Like, we must understand that healthy boundaries is not about keeping ourselves separate from the person, the situation, or the problem, okay? But boundaries are actually connecting points, okay? Since they provide healthy rules for navigating relationships, intimate or professional. Okay? They are connecting points. Boundaries actually are connecting points, because they provide healthy rules and regulations. They help us navigate the relationship a lot better, And so that's how we got to look at boundaries, because if we look at boundaries as a way to separate or cool down this and that, then we're not using the boundaries for what they were intended for. Okay? Now what we're doing is we're literally using, quote, boundaries to disconnect from our relationship, and that actually is not good. You should never disconnect. Now, there'll be times where you take a time out and you guys literally take time to go and pray this and that, but what you don't realize is that you're still in a situation to whereas you're still a team, because you're both at different places. Like, one may be in the bedroom, one may be in the kitchen, and you're both praying about the situation and how you can come up with a solution for it. So that's still where your team, you're just literally taking a time out, right? It's just like a basketball team or football team when they take a time out. They're still on the same team, even though they just took a time out, but they're regrouping. So a timeout is to help you regroup, not to disconnect you. Okay, so boundaries are for you to be able to utilize them to be able to have a healthy relationship, to be able to navigate all of the different connecting points that can literally lead you to more of an intimate relationship or more of a professional relationship with whoever you're with or whatever business that you're in. I hope this is making sense to you guys. Okay, hope this is making sense to you guys. All right. So having boundaries allows us to make ourselves a priority. Okay, that is so important. Having boundaries help us to make ourselves a priority, whether it's for self-care, career aspirations, or within the relationship. Having healthy boundaries helps us to self-care, helps us to have career aspirations, helps us to be able to have more healthier relationships, okay? Having healthy boundaries, okay? And so this is what we got to do. Like, we have to look at these situations and understand that at the end of the day, that boundaries improve our relationships and self-esteem. They do. Boundaries improve our relationships and self-esteem. It does. Because guess what? Boundaries protect relationships from becoming unsafe. That's a big one. Your healthy boundaries in your relationship helps you to literally create an atmosphere that is safe. When you don't have healthy boundaries, guess what? Your atmosphere will be unsafe. And you don't want to live in an atmosphere that is unsafe, because that is going to breed a ground of trouble and discontent and toxic to the 100th power. Okay? And so that's why boundaries are so important, because it helps us to protect our relationship from becoming unsafe, right? And so when we're protecting our relationship from becoming unsafe, what are we doing? We're actually creating the atmosphere for us to bring ourselves closer to each other than further apart. Because guess what? When you're in a toxic situation and when things are unsafe, what happens? We get defensive. We get defensive. That's it. That's a wrap. We defensive. That's it. We done with it. Now we on the defense mode. We're protecting ourselves. And now what is happening is we're drawing farther and farther apart from one another. We are. We're going further and further apart from one another. And so what happens is that when we use healthy boundaries in our relationship, it protects it and it helps it to be safe, which means it actually helps us to be able to grow together and trust one another and not have animosity and bitterness and defensiveness and offensiveness on the line that separates us. Okay. All right. So boundaries help to improve our relationship. Okay. All right. That's one thing. Okay. Number two, boundaries can be flexible. Okay. Boundaries can be flexible. And this is a big thing because we're forever changing. Like nobody stays the same. You're always changing, regardless if you're getting taller, as if for guys, some ladies do too. They hit them growth spurts and they get taller, but you're always changing. No matter if you're a kid, if you're a young adult, if you're a middle-aged adult, if you're a senior, you're always changing. And so don't draw your boundaries with a permanent ink, not in permanent ink. We do not want to draw our boundaries in permanent ink. Okay. Because you have to leave some room for flexibility. Okay. We have to leave some room for flexibility. We have to. There's no other way. Like if you do not leave room for flexibility, something's going to break, right? It's going to break. And so we don't want anything to break. We want to make sure that in our relationship, we have flexibility. Okay. So it's good to think about your boundaries occasionally and reassess them. Okay. Are our boundaries working for us? Do we need to change them a little bit? Do we need to upgrade them a little bit? Do we need to do this? It's always good to reassess your boundaries. Okay. And one way we can look at is that we need to make sure that they're not too rigid and they're not too inflexible. Okay. Because when they're too rigid and when they're not flexible, problems can occur. Problems can occur. Okay. Problems can occur if our boundaries are too rigid or if they're not flexible. Problems can occur. Why? Because now there's tension that is going because one person is thinking this, the other person is thinking that, and you're literally stuck like this. And there is no flexibility. And what does the flexibility does? It allows you to compromise. Okay? Because at the end of the day, it's about us being right together. Not about you being right, not about me being right, but it's about we being right. Amen, somebody. I hope y'all can see that because I got a whole bunch of screens up right now. And so I can't see my video. But it's about we being right. Not you being right, not me being right, but we being right. And we be right, that is when we create that unity. And that's when, guess what? We give God something to work with because now we're doing what he called us to do. And he said, who God has put together, that's what the Lord said, let no man put asunder. Which means that when you are walking in unity, there's nothing that could come against you because you have the favor of God on your life. A man who findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtain favor from the Lord. Okay. So these scriptures are not just there just for, feel good. No, God is saying like, hey, I got you. When you join with your wife, you're going to have favor on your life, your family. When you come together in unity as I put you together, like nothing, no problem, no situation, and nothing will be able to put you under. You'll always be able to rise above it. Amen, somebody. Okay. So again, looking at these boundaries, okay, boundaries that are too rigid or not flexible will cause problems. Okay. And so we don't want to isolate ourselves, avoid closeness altogether, or give up all our time to others. Okay. See, creating boundaries that are too bending is often common for women. I'm just saying, women, a lot of times, and it is what it is, because most women, when we go through these personality tests, I see more women that are people pleasers than a lot of men. And so what happens is a lot of the women literally find themselves in the fact that their boundaries are too flexible. Okay, they're too flexible, and so what happens is, in some of the boundaries that are too flexible, you give up all your time. Okay, you give up all your time, or you isolate yourself, and so it's too rigid. It's too rigid. It's like it's a string, because a lot of times, when it comes down to emotion, see, men, we can compartmentalize stuff. Women, on the other hand, and I'm not being sexist or nothing like that, but it is what it is. Women are more emotional a lot of times than men, on the average. Not every, because they got some emotional men out there. But on the average, women are more emotional, but you're supposed to be, because you're like, women are more nurturing than men in general. Okay? And so you can't be nurturing without being emotional. You have to be able to connect from an emotional standpoint to be nurturing. Men, we're more rigid, so we're more, that's why we are the protectors. We're the ones that is going to protect, and we're going to make sure that, because see, men have a innate ability about them. My sister Z say, I highly disagree. I'm telling you, like, women, that's so funny. It is the truth, y'all. It's the truth. Don't make me the bearer of bad news. It is the truth. She said men are way more emotional. Not every man. Like, men are able to compartmentalize a lot more than women can. Women can wear their emotions on their sleeve, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, people in general are emotional, but when it comes down to being able to really, process these emotions, like, women can be a lot more emotional, like, in situations and circumstances. Men will hide it. We'll sit there and we'll be stone cold. No, it's breaking us up inside. We'll compartmentalize it, but a lot of times that's hard. Women can't do that, and that's because women are nurturing. So I wouldn't want women to be able to do that, because guess what? Then, like, when it comes to the kids, and like, me, me and my wife, like, I'll be like, well, JJ, like, you did that, you go on a timeout. My wife would be like, well, he really, and I'm like, I'm like, nope, you do the crime, you do the time. You see what I'm saying? But that's me, and a lot of times we'll have to find that balance. So I'm like, JJ, man, you're not gonna be soft. Like, I'm like, man, get down there and do some push-ups. And Brandon's like, no, he's okay. Like, this and that. And I'm like, I'm like, no, he knew what he was doing. He gonna suffer the consequences. That's it. And I'm not that hard, but you guys can get the picture of what I'm saying. And so, but that's that nurturing side. Like, men, we can be so, like, just, at it. And it's just like, man, you not like, what's the word I'm trying to use? It's like, very stern, and just like, where sometimes we can turn off our emotional side. Sometimes we can turn it off and be totally just, just like blank, and then but some women can be like that too. So I'm not saying that this is something where it's like all women are like this, all men are like that. No, men, there's some very emotional men out there, like extremely emotional, like extremely. And there's some very hard up women that you be like, dang, they not emotion, they have no emotions. Like, they just straight up set it up, like set it off emotionless. Y'all remember the movie Set It Off? But they like that. So you have those different, but from a general standpoint, like, women are wired to just be more emotional than men. And so, that's because that comes down from that nurturing part, especially mothers, like women that'll be mothers. Because you want to know why? Because the thing is that, guess what? Like, I still don't get it to this day. I don't get it. Like, we done had 3 kids, and I don't get how, like, women can be all in all that pain, and then, like, they're crying and just extremely emotionally happy at the end. I'm like, man, like, you just pushed out like freaking like 7-8 pounds. Like, I'm like, man, let me take a break. Like, let me recoup. Man, give me some Gatorade, this and that. I've never seen a woman do that. I've seen a woman go from that pain and just straight to emotional joy and happiness. And I don't know if men can do that. I'm like, man, can we just like literally just switch like that? I don't know. So I think God, like, purposely, where men don't carry babies, because we'll be in trouble, y'all. Like, I think the human race would be in trouble if men had to carry babies. Like, we would be in trouble, because we would just be in trouble, y'all. And I ain't got to go into all the details of that. But the human race would be in trouble if men were the carriers of the babies and not the women. And so, thank God for women for being nurturing and having that emotional, side to them, that they can even in extreme situations, man, they can have joy and happiness. And because I don't know, man, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I mean, I done went through 3 childbirths, and I'm just like, man, my wife's sitting up there and she just like, you just ain't push out all these 8 pounds and like all that huffing and puffing and, and man, look, it's sweating and pain and it's just like, as soon as the baby get here, it's like all that go out the window. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think men will be like that. I don't think, so thank God, that we don't have to carry no baby. Because guess what? I'm gonna tell you right now, if I had to be the one to carry the babies, y'all could just chalk it up. Y'all just chalk it up. If the human race had to survive through me, hey, y'all just about to well be like, hey, you know what? It was good. It was real. It was real. We had a good time on earth. Because I'm sorry, I just can't even see that. I can't see it, amen. But yeah, so let's get back to the topic for real. But the thing is, that's right, Mama Watson. That's right. I'm telling you, man. Shout out to mothers everywhere. Shout out to mothers. Y'all are the real MVPs for real. I'm telling you, I just don't know how y'all do that childbirth stuff. I don't understand that. My wife, they didn't even get a chance to give her the epidural last time, so she had our last baby naturally. Like, she didn't have any epidural. Like, she had Gigi, Gabby Grace naturally. So yeah, shout out to y'all, because man, look at here. No sir, no ma'am. The human race, y'all are just, hey, let's go to heaven. Let's go ahead and go to heaven. Let's get it done. For real. Because I'm sorry, y'all be mad at me, but I'm just sorry. That ain't my cup of tea. That and going to the military. Shout out to our vets everywhere, because that just ain't my cup of tea either. Shout out to the vets, man. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for standing and fighting for us in our country to keep us safe and all that, because that's not my cup of tea. I wasn't made for that either. I pray for you. I'll be a chaplain. Oh yeah, but no, me fighting and carry the gun and all that kind of stuff, no, that ain't for me either. So shout out to our vets. Shout out to our military personnel, man. We love you guys. Thank you guys for all the sacrifice you guys make, from the family time, from being across seas, keeping our borders safe, keeping our women and children and all our families safe here in the United States of America. So if you guys are watching, if you're in military personnel, shout out to you. God bless you. Amen. All right. So let's get back to this thing. All right. So we want to make sure that we keep our boundaries flexible. Okay. We got to keep our boundaries flexible. Amen. Keep your boundaries flexible. Okay. Number 3. Boundaries allow us to conserve our emotional energy. Remember, we talked about that, okay? And so now we're just breaking it down a little bit, okay? So our self-esteem, okay? Your self-esteem, my self-esteem, and identity can be impacted, y'all. It can be impacted. When we don't have healthy boundaries, our self-esteem and our identity can be heavily impacted, all right? And what happens is, when our self-esteem and identity is impacted, we can literally move towards resentment in any relationship. Don't matter if it's business, don't matter if it's a spouse, don't matter if it's a fiance or you're just courting, dating, or whatever. You can really build up resentment toward the other person, okay? Because of why? The inability to advocate for yourself, okay? And a lot of times we blame the other person, but no, we have to look internally, because we have to set healthy boundaries. And we're going to talk, as I give you guys these, we're going to talk how, we're going to go through how we do that. Okay, how do we set healthy boundaries? What does that look like? But I want to just break it down from the beginning, so to give us a very clear picture of what boundaries are and how they can impact our lives, okay? But a lot of times we can be resentful. We can get bitter, because of the simple fact that our self-esteem and identity has been impacted, because we never set any healthy boundaries. And then we can literally have all this resentment and bitter in our heart. We can be so just full of bitterness in our heart. And it literally boils down to our inability to advocate for ourselves. That's what it boils down to, because we did not set healthy boundaries and reinforce them. Okay? All right? So we don't have to have the same boundaries or comfort levels for both people. You don't have to have the same boundaries and comfort levels, okay? Boundaries that let us have a different radius depending on the situation or person can also help us maintain enough energy to care for ourselves, okay? That the care for ourselves. Boundaries let us, okay, be able to position ourselves to be able to maintain enough energy to care for yourself. Have you ever been in a situation where you just been so drained emotionally and mentally in a relationship and you don't have the energy to even care for yourself? See, boundaries are the culprit of that. When you do not set healthy boundaries, you will be in a situation and in a position to whereas you won't have the energy to care for yourself. Like we was talking about earlier, boundaries help us to self-care. But if you don't put boundaries and you continue to just exhaust yourself emotionally, you won't be able to self-care. And what means that now it gets worse and worse because of the simple fact, now you're in a place to whereas you're exhausted. You're exhausted, okay? You are exhausted, okay? So we have to be careful. We got to be careful. We got to set healthy boundaries. We have to, y'all. If we don't set healthy boundaries, we cannot self-care. We cannot be able to, have the emotional fortitude that we need for stability to be able to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish in our relationships because we're unhealthy, because we're emotionally drained. And when you get emotionally drained, bitterness, like insecure, like resentfulness, all those things can set up because now you're looking at the other person because that person is your problem. And so because that person is your problem and you're not looking at yourself saying like, hey, man, I didn't advocate for myself to set the boundaries I need to stay emotional healthy, to stay in the place where I need to be. That's what it is. So we have to be able to advocate and be assertive to be able to set healthy boundaries. And we, again, stay with me. We're going to talk about how we do that because there's a way to do it. And sometimes people do it the wrong way and it doesn't work. So that's why we're trying to set this thing up and we're going to go into the how to in a minute. OK, so stay with me. Stay with me. Boundaries give us space to grow and be vulnerable. Okay. Boundaries help us to give us space to grow and be vulnerable. We all deal with complex feelings when life happens. By setting boundaries and then breaking them when the time is right, you're showing your vulnerability. Okay. So this is the thing, like when I was talking about that flexibility, like we have to be flexible, y'all. When setting boundaries, then breaking them when the time is right, you're showing your vulnerability because what it does is show that you're in a situation where this thing could go either way. All right. It could go any way. It could go in a way. It could go in a positive manner or it can go in a negative manner. Okay. And so if we set these boundaries and literally break them when the time is right, we show our vulnerability, but also it shows that we are willing to work. But if you set a boundary and break it before time, it's going to still show your vulnerability, but what it's going to show from a negative standpoint, which literally leaves you exposed to having what? Emotional instability. Y'all see how this works? So either way, when you set a boundary, if you set the boundary and you prematurely break the boundary, then it's going to create vulnerability. If you set the boundary and you wait to the right time to break it, it's going to create vulnerability. But the problem is that it depends on when you break that boundary, because you don't want to break that boundary prematurely before you get over the hump of what you're trying to get over, because it's like literally being thrown into the deep end without a life jacket, or thrown in the deep end without something to hold on to that can keep you afloat. Because the thing is, you wasn't ready. The process hadn't happened for you to really learn how to swim without the life jacket or without the vest or whatever floating device that can help you. Okay, so boundaries help you to heal in a situation, or literally gives you an opportunity to be able to maneuver through the situation. But if you break it prematurely, like it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt because you are totally exposed. You're totally exposed. You're totally exposed. Okay. But if you break it at the right time, it creates an opportunity for you to literally look and see, man, we overcame that. All right. Now, do we need to reassess this and put some other type of boundary in place? Or are we good in this arena and let's look for another arena to set a boundary? Okay. So boundaries give us space to grow and be vulnerable. Okay. All right. So this could be as simple when we're looking at the time is right to break the boundary. It could be simple as asking or talking openly to friends and family. When we display our vulnerability to someone, we let them know that they're welcome to open up to us sometime when they need to. So we make ourselves vulnerable. We open ourselves, and so what happens, because some people can be standoffish because of the hurt they've been through in the past, and in relationships that is unhealthy, because what happens is there's going to be like a lack of communication. There's going to be a lack of connectiveness, like what we have to have, and you have to be vulnerable in a relationship in order to connect. If a person always have their guard up, how can you connect with somebody that got their guard up? You can't connect. But when a person embraces you like this, and see, what we don't realize is that, let me back up a little bit so you guys can see. Let me pull this up. But what we don't realize is, like, when we literally come with open arms, we leave ourselves open for hurt, right? We leave ourselves, and so. But if you always like this fighting, like you're not willing to connect because you're so busy. Like, let me protect myself. I love you though. I love you, but I gotta protect myself. Then you're not connecting. Okay, you're not able to connect. But when we come with open arms and let ourselves be vulnerable, we're able to embrace one another and connect. And guess what? That can be a scary place, because now you can't protect yourself. But that's what we want to be, because guess what? We're one anyway. We're one anyway. And that's what happens to a lot of marriages when they come into the marriage defensive and not embracing each other. It causes friction, because while the other person trying to embrace, you jabbing it, bam, 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 bam. And they getting hurt emotionally, mentally. And the next thing you know, they go up. And now both of y'all throwing punches back at each other. Bam, bam. Emotional punches. Some of y'all throwing physical punches. All right. But emotional punches. Bam, 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 bam. Emotional punches. And what happens is it creates a world of trouble. Right. And so this is how important healthy boundaries are. Because healthy boundaries, when you set them and like you can trust it, like you can embrace one another. You can make yourself vulnerable to whereas the other person, like, you know what, like you could really feel some type of way about this, but you really trust in the process. And for that, I honor you. And so, like, literally, like, now you got two people embracing one another, and the two are becoming one flesh, and who God put together, let no one put us under. So it creates the unity that God wants you to have that protects your marriage. Okay, you guys get how that works? When you literally allow yourself to become one, you're protecting your marriage. You're literally obeying the word of God, and there's a covering that comes under that type of unity because you're obeying God. But when one person is over here and one person is in the hell, look at that big old breach in the middle that the enemy can come in and just play dance. He could be like the Sandman off the Apollo, just tap dancing all on your relationship emotionally. And y'all can't even see it. And you fight each other and don't realize there's a real enemy that's tap dancing emotionally on all your parts of your relationship and literally hurting your relationship. Okay? All right. So what are some red flags, y'all? What are some red flags? What are some red flags, okay, when it comes down to a person that has not set healthy boundaries, okay? Posting, like, and this is a big one. People be posting their personal rants and attacks on social media. See, that's when you know that you don't have healthy boundaries, because if you had a conversation with your husband or you had a conversation with your wife, and because like things don't go out the way you want, now you on social media under the disguise of you encouraging somebody, but really you literally talking to your husband or you talking to your wife on a slick. That's unhealthy, y'all. That's unhealthy. And I see so many couples do that, where they'll go to social media and post their personal feelings about their marriage, but they won't literally say that's about their marriage. You see what I'm saying? They won't really say that's about that other person. Those are red flags of not having healthy boundaries in your marriage, because you shouldn't be having to go to social media to talk and express yourself about how you feel about what's going on in your marriage and hide it under the contents of that you're trying to encourage somebody else. That's not good. Okay, that's not good. And a lot of people do that kind of stuff, and that is a dead giveaway, a red flag of an unhealthy relationship because the boundaries are not in place that will allow for the communication and the conversation and the vulnerability to be able to allow the space for the relationship to grow. Because remember, boundaries help connect, you know, they provide connecting points to bring our relationship to a more greater level of intimacy. Why? Because now we got structure in place. Now we got a system in place, right? We both agree to the system, which again brings us to unity where we're walking together in agreement. How can two walk together unless they agree? That's the word of God. If you can't agree together, you can't walk together, which means there can't be any harmony or unity. Okay? All right? Okay? Here's another one. Sharing personal details with new people in hopes of hurrying the friendship along. This is something else, man. Like some people, because they are so disgruntled in their marriage or they're so disgruntled in their relationship, like when somebody comes and they just open up to them, man, like they'll literally find themselves just being an open book to them. And it's just like and some people, they'll be looking like, man, I just need somebody that I can confide in. And so they'll just spill their whole life because they feel so comfortable with this person. And subconsciously what they're doing is that they're trying to literally have a friend that they can literally be able to release that pressure to. But what happens is, it's like a lot of times those things backfire in your face because, again, like you're talking to a total stranger about your personal business. Okay. And so we have to be careful about that. We have to be careful about that. Okay. So I always tell couples, like when it comes down to talking about like stuff in the marriage, we have to agree on the people that we're going to talk to about our personal marriage issues. Okay. We got to agree about that. We got to talk about it. And we got to sit down and we got to literally agree. These are the people we're going to have in our marriage, because you have to protect your marriage. All right. You have to protect your relationship. You have to do that. If you don't protect it, who will? Okay. And so you got to be careful, because you got some people out there that are stir up drama in your relationship because they're trying to get your spouse. All right. People cold out here, boy. People are cold. They will stir up some drama just so you can be like, man, I'm done with that person. They come on around the back end and they scoop them up. And you looking like, what the world? Yeah, they straight up played you like Boo Boo the Fool and Lucky the Puppy. Okay. So that's the thing. We have to be careful about that. Okay. All right. Have to be careful about that. All right. So we have to be careful, because what happens is, this is the thing. This is another one that's unhealthy, where people have no filter, okay, or regard, okay, to how what they say comes off and hurts the other person. That's when you know you're in a very toxic place and there's no healthy boundaries, okay? Like that is, we don't want to get to that place. So, because we want to set healthy boundaries so that these boundaries will literally help us to be able to thrive. Okay, these boundaries will help us to be able to grow. These boundaries will help us to be able to go forward in what God has called us to do as a couple. But most importantly, create this peaceful environment for your family. Because when children are involved, like you got to be careful, like with the atmosphere that you create in your own home. So it's great to have healthy boundaries because they are watching, and you're teaching your kids how to have healthy boundaries. Okay. You're teaching your kids how to have healthy boundaries. Okay. So how do we define boundaries? How do we define boundaries? Okay. How do we find boundaries? Number one, ask, what are your rights? Okay. Number two, follow your gut. Follow what your spirit is saying. Follow, like, you know what? Like this is, and determine your values. Okay. The last one is determine your values. That is the biggest one. Determine your values. What is valuable to you? What is non-negotiable? What is a deal breaker to you? Okay? Put that on the table. Okay? That's how you define your healthy boundaries. Okay? Like you gotta put out on the table, okay, this is a deal breaker for me. All right? This right here, because if this is broken, this is gonna break. Like we have to be totally honest, y'all. Because when we're not totally honest, what happens is that we do not set the healthy boundaries that are needed. And as a result, guess what happens? Trouble, trouble, trouble. All right? Trouble. Okay? So how are our boundaries shaped? Our boundaries are shaped by the culture we grew up in. Right? It is. Point blank. Our boundaries are shaped by the culture that we grew up in. Okay? It's also shaped by the region that we live in or where we're from, right? We see that. We see that in certain regions, like, even when we look at the state of Louisiana, like people have different, there's a different culture in New Orleans than it is in this entire state. It is. Like there is no, almost you can really look at, if you look at the whole United States of America, you don't have a culture like New Orleans nowhere in the USA. Okay, that's why you see thousands and thousands and thousands of people that come here for vacationing and festivals year round, because the culture here is totally different than where you get pretty much anywhere in the world. All right, New Orleans is a unique place. All right, and so our boundaries are shaped by our culture. Our boundaries are shaped by the region that we live in or where we come from. Okay, it is. They are. There is. Ronald say the people. Yeah, our boundaries are shaped by that, okay? Whether we're introverted, extroverted, or somewhere in between, our boundaries are shaped by that. Our boundaries are shaped, definitely, people that are introverted, you're going to see people that are introverted, their boundaries are going to be a little bit different than people that are extroverted. It is. It's a proven fact, okay? All right? Our life experiences, that is probably the biggest one. Your life experiences is going to show how you set boundaries. And a lot of times, depending on how our life experiences are, we're going to either set healthy boundaries or unhealthy boundaries. All right. And the last one, our family dynamics. Our family dynamics. Our boundaries are shaped by our family dynamics. Okay. So when I said earlier, what's your rights? Okay. What is your right? Okay. What is your right? Okay. What is your right? What is your right? So we all have basic rights, okay? We all have the right to say no without feeling guilty, okay? We all have the right to say no without feeling guilty. We have the right to be treated with respect, okay? Okay, and so let's work on those two right there. Because again, in a situation like you can say no, and the thing is when you've literally set this boundary, because again, like this is the thing, like you have to come, like if you're in a marriage, it is imperative that you guys sit down and literally set boundaries for your marriage. You cannot, and this is the thing, it will not work out for you great. You can do it, but it will not work out for you great if you set a boundary in the midst of the situation and it was never communicated to the other person. You can expect that that person is going to literally understand what you're saying, the value of what you're saying, and how to react to that when you literally just made that boundary up in your mind, because that's your boundary. Okay, that is not fair, because what happens is it becomes an excuse for a scapegoat instead of literally being able to deal with the situation. So if you're going to set boundaries, ladies and gentlemen, you must. It is imperative. It is so important for you to talk to your spouse and sit down and literally communicate to them, these are my boundaries. These are these are non-negotiable. I need these because if I have these, this is what happens when these are in place. If these are not in place, this is what happened. And as a result, we don't like when this happened. So in order for this to not happen, we have to set healthy boundaries, and this is my boundary. And you have to give the person the opportunity to also, okay, I understand what you're saying, but it's like, how do you expect me to deal with this and this if this comes up? And that's fine. So you just work through it until you guys be on the same page about that boundary. But at the end of the day, you do not have to say, well, I'm throwing that boundary out the window. No, because that's still something that you need. And the other person should be willing to accommodate that. But if it needs to be tweaked a little bit, you guys have to be what? Flexible. We get back to that. All right. So you have to be flexible when it comes down to setting your boundaries and making sure by the time you get done that you both are on the same page with that boundary. If that does not work, get somebody involved. Get a mediator involved that can help you, because if you do not work on those boundaries, if you do not set those boundaries and you do not reinforce those boundaries, you are looking to literally be in a toxic situation very quickly. Okay. So again, we all have the right to say no without feeling guilty. Okay. So again, you can say no, but make sure that it's already been communicated to your spouse and say, hey, this is what's going to happen if this happens. And they have the ability to say, well, hey, What if we could tweak it like this? Because this can help me be able to understand where you're coming from. And it's like, okay, bam, that works, because that still is meeting my need, and now it's helping me to be able to meet your need. We're on the same page. But you can't throw up a boundary at the last minute during the conflict, because it becomes manipulative. Okay? Well, you can't cross my boundaries. It's like, what boundary? We never even talked about no boundaries. Well, this is my boundary, and it is what it is, and you need to respect that. That's not right. That's not fair, because the thing is, that is manipulative. Okay, we have to talk about those boundaries, because we're one. Remember, we're one. We're one. And so the thing is, we sit down and talk about those boundaries so we can be on the same page. Because what happens is, if you sit down and talk about those boundaries, you may never have to even call that card and say, hey, like, I'm shutting it down, without feeling guilty. You may not even have to get to that place to saying no, because now guess what? You both are on the same page, understanding this is a boundary for us. Yep. You went through that, Ronald. That's real. That's real. And so you have to set boundaries. A lot of people go through it when they don't set those healthy boundaries. And as a result of what happens is, like, you find yourself in a bad situation, and so you have to talk about it. You have to talk about, this is non-negotiable for me. And it's just like, man, I need to let you know, because if this ever goes back to this place, I'm going to say no, and I'm going to expect you to abide by my no and respect me on my no. And then the other person has, well, I get what you're saying, but can we tweak this a little bit, because that's a little harsh. This, like, that's going to be hard to understand. What if we could do it like this? And as long as it don't change the fact that you have a boundary there, you could compromise. That's good. Be flexible. So both people will be on the same page, and you'll be able to get what you need, and the other person will know. So you may not even have to say no without feeling guilty, because you got a healthy boundary in place. All right. I have the right to make my needs as important as others. That's a big one. You have the right, when you're in a relationship, when you are in a marriage, you have the right to make your needs just important as the other person, because you're two are one. Okay, so be assertive. Say what your needs are. Say what your needs are. Period. Don't sit back and just allow another person to just kind of just, roll with the show. And then you sit and now you are resentful because of the simple fact, this ain't what you bargained for. No, from the beginning, state your needs. State your needs. Help them to understand how important it is. That's a healthy boundary, because what happens is, now you're telling this person, like, this is very important to me, so don't forget it. So if my need is that I need to feel valued, or I need to feel loved, and this is the way I feel loved because this is my love language, then state that. State that. And like, require it, because it's like, hey, this is my love language. And if you love me, like, this is my love language, because love is work. So many times we look at love is about getting. No, love is about giving. It's work. And so the thing is, it's like, hey, if this is her love language, work her love language. It ain't about what you think you want to do for her. If this is what she like, do that. Because the whole point is that you are doing it to show her that she's valuable to you. Not about how you want to do it, so you want to do it like this because that means a lot to you. Now I'm telling you, some people get it mixed up. They want to go buy all these lavish gifts and all that, and they wonder why they wife their husband is like looking like they're like, okay, thank you, and you be like, girl, you know how much that costs? You know how much I love you, and they be like, oh well, thank you, but their love language is quality time. So you went and spent that $200, $300 on that when all you had to do is spend 5 to 10 minutes uninterrupted time just sitting there talking to them, asking them how was their day. That would be priceless to them than that $200, $300 gift you gave them, because that gift don't mean nothing to them, because their love language is not gifts. It is quality time. So that's why it's so important for us to know each other's love languages, so that we speak each other's love languages and we literally communicate our love through each other's love languages. Amen, somebody. All right, that'll solve a lot of y'all problems if y'all knew each other's love languages. Amen, somebody. And if you don't know each other's love languages, go and literally get that book, The 5 Love Languages, okay? You take the test, the quiz is going to tell you what your love languages is, and you're going to study, and you're going to read about all the different love languages, okay? And it's going to literally revolutionize your marriage, your relationship. It's going to change it. I promise you, trust me on this, all right? Okay? All right. I have the right not to meet others' unreasonable expectations of me. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I hope y'all hear me on this one. You have the right. You have the right now to not meet others' unreasonable expectations of yourself. This is a big one. Listen, if a person's expectations are what about single people? The single people, Ronald, and you talk about as far as the let me see, because I think it might be a little back, like off a little bit. So you're talking. Let me go back in what I was saying. You're talking about single people and the fact of let's see what the last thing I said when you answered that, when you asked that. Oh, your needs. Okay. Yes, single people, same thing. You have the right to make your needs just as important as others. You do. Like anybody that comes into your arena, Ronald, anybody that comes into your arena, like as a friend or whatever, like they have to value who you are. Oh, you making a joke. But I mean, but it's true. No, it's true. Single people for real. Like you have, like, you know, like, I mean, it's a real, even though you're making a joke, I'm glad you did, because you don't have to be in a marriage, like to literally, like, you know, your needs are important as others. So like if a friend comes in into your life and it's like they come in and they make their needs like more than yours, like, man, like that's not a good thing. Like, so it's a two-way street on this deal. Whether your relationship is platonic, whether your relationship is marriage or courting, or it's professional or business wise, like your needs are just important as the other people in the room. Because what happened is, if your needs are just not as important as other people in the room, you're going to be around there insecure. And what happens is now you're not going to set healthy boundaries because you're not going to open your mouth because you're already feeling some type of way. Or you got bitterness setting up in your heart. You got resentfulness setting up in your heart. And what happens is that you literally find yourself literally sabotaging your own situation because of what you're thinking in your mind. Okay. So again, to avoid all that, just know that, hey, your needs are just important as others, and open your mouth and be assertive and tell people. All right. Because they're going to be your friend or they're going to be in any type of relationship with you. It's got to be a two-way street, not just a one-way street. Amen. Amen. All right. So you have the right not to beat others' unreasonable expectations of yourself. And you do. You have the right. If it's unreasonable, that's why it's so important for us to sit down and talk and conversate and not take things personal. We have to be able to sit down and talk and not take things personal, okay? So you have the right not to meet others unreasonable. If it comes out to be unreasonable and it's something you can't do, then you talk about it and then you come to a solution. Okay, look, man, I just can't do this. Like, it is what it is, and it's like, this is what we got to do. Like, we just got to figure out how we're going to get through this. Because you can't just leave it at, you know, I just can't do this and it is what it is. No, we got to get to, okay, where do we go from here? Okay? What kind of boundary are we setting here? But while we're setting this boundary, how do we fulfill what is missing in this situation? Because if you don't literally work on what is missing in the situation, you set the boundary, but the other person is going to feel like they're getting the short end of the stick, especially if it's something that literally creates more synergy in your marriage. Okay. And it's like, well, I can't do that because, you know, I come from, you know, I just don't know how to do that. And okay, I get it. So what are we going to do to help us get there? Because until we get there, like, this is going to create some tension. So yes, we could put a boundary there. That's fine. But how are we going to work on this so that even with this boundary, it's a boundary that actually has connecting points that brings us to more intimacy? Remember, I said that earlier. Because if your boundaries don't have connecting points to get you guys in a place to win, then it's not a boundary. It's a scapegoat that literally creates separation. Okay. And some people don't know the difference between a boundary and a scapegoat. All right. Y'all get it? Some people call boundaries, but they really it's a scapegoat. So a scapegoat is totally looking for a way out and not looking to connect. Boundaries is literally looking for a way to take a break, but still connect in a more intimate way. Boundaries help to protect the marriage, to protect the relationship, to protect what's important. Scapegoat is, I'm exiting the stage left. I don't care if it fall apart, if it fall under, up, sideways, no matter, I'm protecting myself. Boundaries protect us. Scapegoat protects the person that's running. Okay? Y'all got it? All right. Okay? So, what does my gut tell me? Okay? And then we're going to do what are our values, and then we're going to stop there tonight, and we'll pick up the rest later next week. Okay? What does your gut tell you? Okay? Your instincts. What God is speaking to you, you know, whatever, because some people say my gut, some people say my instincts, but a lot, like, that's God speaking to you. Like, God is speaking to you to help determine when someone is violating your boundaries or when you need to set one up. Like, you know, you have that feeling. You have that feeling. And so what you do is that you got to check in. Check in with your heart, okay? Check in. Self-evaluate. Where you at? What's going on? You know, check in. See what is happening. If you get into a place where you're emotional and you know that you can't handle this, you know this can't happen, okay? Okay? So you got to check in. And when you do, like, you sit down and talk like, hey, you know what? I'm looking at this, like, I'm clenching my fist, like I'm sweating, I'm yelling, I'm fussing, I feel tightness in my chest, my heart rate is elevated, I'm sweating, my stomach hurting, my throat hurt. Like, that let me know those are all indications of the fact that this is an unhealthy situation. So we have to put in a healthy situation. And that is something that the person that is feeling that needs to be able to sit down and say, hey, this is what I need. Like, let's get to the bottom of it. And the other person say, okay, I get you. Okay, now we can do it just like that. Or can we tweak this right here? Because I see what you're saying, but this will help me to be able to honor this, you know, so that it could be a more of a smooth deal. And it's okay to do that, long as the fact that you're still able to set your healthy boundary. It's okay about being flexible. Or you may not need the flexibility. You just need to sit down with a person and just be totally honest and assertive and say, look, this is what happened when I do this. This is what happened, this and that. And look, I just, you know, in this, like, we just got to do this. Like, I got to set a boundary. And what we could do is we could come back to it later. But at that moment, I can't deal with it. And so let's just agree to, like, come back to it later. And so this is what I say. Okay, you know, here it is. Like, timeout. That's gonna be my cue. So when I'm getting to a place where I know I can't handle or things are just not good, I'm gonna call a timeout. And that's audible. We automatically know that it's like, man, like, we're gonna come back together. Let's come back together and talk about this later. And now let's go to our separate places. Let's pray. And when I say places, I'm talking about in the house. I ain't talking about you got two, because you got two separate places and being married, that's something wrong with that. Okay. But I'm talking about in your marriage that you have, you know, you might have your prayer closet. He may have the yard or something where he go outside and maybe do some yard work or, you know, do something outside, you know, work on something. And you guys are praying and asking God to intervene into your situation. And most importantly, that you're able to come up with the solution that will be able to help you process whatever's happening, but get through it and be on the same page. That's the kind of boundaries you want to set. Not one that creates a scapegoat and we never come back to dealing with it. We just move on to the next thing. And now we got more problems that we never really faced. Okay? All right? So whatever your gut is telling you, listen to it and sit down, be assertive, and have that conversation to where it's okay, you know, we got to talk about this. This is what has to happen for me, you know, and what are we going to do about it? Okay? Instead of waiting till those times get there and then it's just like explosion, one after another, okay? We don't want to get to the explosion place. We don't want to get to the place where we're exploding all the time. We want to be able to be in the situation to whereas, look, this is what's happening. This is how it's happening. And as a result, you know, what can we do about it? Okay? Number 3, and we're going to cut tonight and we will finish up next week. Your boundaries also relate to your moral philosophy, okay? Okay? It relates to how you grew up. What do you value? Okay? What do you value? Okay? What do you value? And so again, if there are certain things that you value, like some people value, hey, honor and respect is at the top of their list, you know? Honor and respect. It's like, man, respect when it comes down to listen to me. Don't cut me off. Please don't cut me off. Some people can literally, that can be like you punching them if you cut them off. Some other people, they don't care if you cut them off. They're just like, man, whatever. As long as we can get through it, it don't matter. We can cut each other off all the time. So you guys have to sit down and come to a common agreement about what your value system is when it comes down to your boundaries. Because you can't set boundaries in place that does not include the values that you have. or you leave your values out because this person say that works for them, but you know good well it don't work for you. But because you're a people pleaser, you don't say anything. That's gonna blow up in your face every single time. Okay, if you got certain values, you sit down and you bring it to the table and you be assertive and say, hey, this is how I feel. This is what I know. This is what I can't handle. This is how I was raised. This is like a deal breaker for me. Whatever your values are, the key is that you have to literally, you got to bring it to the table. Okay? You got to bring it to the table. You can't wait till something happens to throw your boundaries out there. No, that has to happen before something happens, because a lot of times if you set those boundaries, you won't have to worry about something happening because you have healthy boundaries in place. Amen, somebody. Amen. Okay? All right. Amen. So that ends tonight. We're at 9:12. If you guys got any questions, next week we're going to start with how do we create boundaries? How do we create healthy boundaries? How do we create them? Okay. How do we create healthy boundaries? Okay. So tonight I just want to set this thing up just to give you like a little deep, like a little synopsis of what boundaries look like and what the rights that you have when it comes down to boundaries. Okay. How our boundaries are shaped. How do we define our boundaries? You know, like all these things. What are red flags when boundaries are not in place? What are the benefits of boundaries? See, we want to talk about all that. If you missed any of that, you can please feel free to go back and watch this on our YouTube channel or watch it on our Facebook channel. Watch it on my personal Facebook because it's on there too. But, we wanted to be able to just talk about how do we define it. Okay. How do we define our boundaries? How do we define them? What are the benefits of boundaries? What are the benefits of them? What are some red flags of boundaries not being in place? Okay. What are some red flags with that? Okay. And we talked about all that. We talked about that. Okay. How our boundaries are shaped. Our boundaries are definitely shaped by how we were raised. Okay. Our boundaries are definitely shaped about the culture that we were raised in. It is. We can't get away from that. Okay. So again, next week, y'all be ready because we're going to talk about how do we create healthy boundaries. Okay. I told you, I just want to set it up tonight. All right. I just want to set it up tonight so that you guys can be thinking about it. You can be processing about boundaries. And some of you guys can go back to your spouse and to your significant other. And you're going to talk about this like, hey, man, we got to talk. Because I'm noticing that, these red flags and why I'm feeling this way is because we don't have healthy boundaries. Right. We don't have healthy boundaries. So, I'm not able to conserve my energy. I'm not able to be emotionally stable because we don't have healthy boundaries. Okay. And so we have to talk about that. We have to talk about setting these healthy boundaries, because if we don't, what's going to happen is that I'm going to feel a place of void. I'm going to be voided. I'm going to be disconnected from you continuously. And now I realize why I'm disconnected. Because we don't have healthy boundaries. Now I realize why I'm tired all the time, because we don't have healthy boundaries, and I'm emotionally drained because of the simple fact that I've not set a healthy boundary to whereas to keep us from going into that place where we just spin our wheels and just get on this emotional roller coaster, exhausting our emotions. Okay. And so we have to set those things in place. All right, y'all. We got to set those things in place. We have to set those things in place. If we don't set those things in place, we are in trouble. Because guess what? Boundaries are one of the most important aspects to a relationship. Because if we don't use boundaries, our relationships will become unsafe. Okay? Like I said earlier, our relationships will become unsafe. We don't want to be in an unsafe relationship because now we're going to be defensive. We're going to be operate from a spirit of offense, and we're going to be all agitated. We're going to be all emotionally disturbed, and and you just don't want all that stuff. Okay, so we want to put healthy boundaries in place to protect our relationships so that our relationships are safe. Okay, so we don't have to isolate ourselves. We don't have to throw ourselves into other relationships with other people because our relationship is so toxic and we can't breathe in our relationship. So we got to always have all these other people around us so that we can actually cope with our own relationship. You don't want to do that. Just set healthy boundaries. Okay. If you don't know how to do that, reach out to my inbox and, we can Zoom and I can help walk you through that. I'll do that. If you're a couple and you're in a relationship, even if you're not here in the city of New Orleans, we can set up a Zoom time and I can help you guys be able to process how to set up healthy boundaries. But next week, we're going to actually talk about that. So again, stay tuned next week, because I'm going to actually go through what I would actually do with couples about setting healthy boundaries. Okay. All right. Blessings to you guys. Love you guys much. Thank you for coming on to our Real Life Tuesdays. I know tonight we were just setting it up. So next week we're going to really get cooking with grease, because we're going to talk about how do we create healthy boundaries. How do we create healthy boundaries? We touched on it a little bit tonight, but not much. Okay. Because I knew we was going to run out of time. All right. So love you guys. Again, if you didn't see any of this, go back, share it. Make sure you share it to your page. Make sure you comment. Love you guys. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for support. All right. Remember, you can send me your topics. Send me your topics, inbox me, and I will literally get those to you guys. Okay. All right. So again, love you guys. God bless. Love the women everywhere. Love you guys. You guys are the real MVP. All mothers everywhere. You guys are the real MVP. I'm going to say that again, because women, I don't see how y'all do that childbirth and stuff. Oh, no, ma'am. No, sir. If y'all was on earlier, y'all heard us having a whole discussion about that. Women are the real MVP, man. For real, for real. So hats off to the women, the mothers all over this world, because you guys are awesome. My wife, who's birthed 3 of our kids, that's yeah. Sometimes I say I want to be like a person when they grow up. I want to be like, man, look, you know what? My wife, like, blessings to you, sweetie. Because I mean that women, what y'all have to go through doing childbirth, man, look at him. Some men being there fainting, y'all. I done seen a couple of my friends done fainted when they're doing the childbirth because they couldn't take it. And they weren't even in pain, but they couldn't take it. So I mean, shout out to the women everywhere, man. All the mothers out there that you guys are the real MVP. Amen. All right, yep. Ronald, see you tomorrow too, brother. Man, God bless you, man of God. See you tomorrow. See you guys that are on here. See you guys tomorrow for our Real Life men's and women's groups Wednesday night. So it's our Real Life Wednesdays. We have Real Life Tuesday, which is the relationship corner. Real Life Wednesdays is our adult deal on Zoom. So we're on Zoom, and so we have our adult women's and men's group on Wednesday. And plus we have a community barbecue tomorrow. So you guys, if you're in the New Orleans area, if you want some barbecue, we're having community barbecues up at the church on Wednesdays at 5:30. We're connected. We're actually partnered with Urban Impact, and so they're the ones that are literally hosting the barbecue with us. And so, man, thank God for Urban Impact, man. They're really reaching the city, and so they wanted us to come, connect with them and be able to hand out flyers and talk with the people that are coming, because let's try to connect with our neighborhood. And so hats off to Urban Impact, because I'm gonna eat about a couple of them nice little hamburgers off the grill tomorrow. I promise you, because I get mine right off the grill. All right, y'all. God bless y'all, man. Love y'all. See you guys later. Peace abide. All right. See you guys next week. All right. Bye-bye.